Hi guys, welcome back to my podcast, Backseat to Positivity. I am Dawn, I'm a doctor, and I discuss all things positive and happy. And today I'm talking about what I learned from being a doctor. We're going to be talking about fun things, and we're going to be talking about maybe controversial things, and we're going to be discussing some stories of what I've been through. Some of these things are a little bit intimate. Some of them are a little bit rude, and some of them are as in rude, as in like naughty. And some of them are a little bit sensitive. So I would watch with caution, listen with caution. I'll give you a little warning before some of them. I do talk about some, obviously death and dying and serious illnesses. So if that's something that's going to bother you, then I'll warn you beforehand, but maybe just skip to the next chapter. I'll try and put the chapters on this one. I forget all the time, but I will try and do it. Anyway, guys, if you're new here, I'm very excited to see you. If you listen to my last episode or watch my last episode, you'll know where I am right now, okay? So I'm not in my house, I'm in a music studio. Anyway, it's a long story, but I've been helping them out, so they've let me use their podcasting equipment. So I've got a bloody podcasting microphone and setup and studio and drum kit, and I can't drum, but I'd love to. So yeah, that's where I am. Anyway, today we're talking about what I learned from being a doctor, and I think there's not really a particular order, but obviously I'm going to leave the best till last. Like, what a silly episode if I handed you on a plate at the start, hey? I just winked. Ooh. Also, I've got these. Oh, let's do the intro dance. Okay, I don't think we should listen to all of it. I don't know how it ends, because I've only listened to about that much of it. But it's a really good song. If it gets copyrighted, I'll be really sad. It might do. Who knows? YouTube has this thing where it goes, oh, use the song that you don't own, so we're going to take your money from you. So that might happen, but I'll just have to cut out the fun dancing. But there we go. Oh, guys, I have been a bit reluctant to make this episode, I would say. But because people are... And let's just start off with the first one. Let's just go straight in. Hard. Now, look, I'm not really working as a doctor at the moment, so will it have many ramifications for me at this present moment? Maybe not. But maybe in the future, maybe it will. I don't know. Look, I'm not talking... Okay, let's put a bloody disclosure in here. I'm not talking about anybody in particular. If you're thinking I'm talking about you, you're almost definitely wrong. Okay? Got it? And that includes patients, that includes staff. I often talk about stories, and it's often, in fact, it always is, an amalgamation of people. It's not just one person. I am not specifically talking about one person. I am not an idiot. I understand the rules of confidentiality. And that also goes for talking about, sometimes I might generalise, and that doesn't mean I think all people are like this, all subsection of population of group are like this, okay? I just want to put all of that out there before you guys judge me. And some of these comments are not my own. Some of them I have taken from other people. I'll tell you which ones. Maybe I will actually, maybe I won't. Ooh, danger. And so that doesn't necessarily mean this is my opinion, okay? So I'm keeping a very neutral playing field here. That's it. That's my full disclosure, okay? Hands in the air like you just don't care. My hands were in the air, if you were listening. Listening. What one do you want to use? I'm sorry if that really spooked you, but I thought that would be fun. Okay. I'm really enjoying these little things. I don't know if they're actually useful or, funny, but to me they are. So that's what matters, isn't it? As long as I'm having fun, you're having fun. Okay, so just after that disclosure, the reason why I have to make this disclosure is because, and we'll get on to the first one, which is that somebody said to me the other day, I can't even remember the context of the situation, but they were like, doctors, they were a doctor as well. They were like, doctors are so bitchy. And obviously I'm a doctor too, so I was like, yeah, I don't care. But, and I was like, are they? And then I'm like, because it's not that I don't think they are bitchy. It's not that I don't think they are bitchy. Is that the right sentence? It's that I've always thought the bitchiness, because I would agree. I would say doctors probably are bitchy. But I've always thought the bitchiness was negativity. And it's a very fine line. Are they just sad about the current condition of the NHS, or are they being bitchy? Do they realise they're being bitchy? Are lots of people bitchy? Not in the medical profession. And humans just enjoy gossiping. So maybe it's just a normal human desire, motive. What is the word? Not condition. Trait. Normal human trait. And why should we necessarily think that doctors are not going to have the same traits as other humans? Like, obviously we will, but it's behind closed doors. So, some people have criticised my YouTube channel, or not necessarily podcast, but YouTube channel in the past for saying the kind of things, and I always want to be open. I always want to be honest. I always want to like have a good time, and that's kind of what I struggled with as a doctor, because it's kind of like the opposite of that, I think. And people in the past have been like, Dawn, you shouldn't be saying those things. And that is because they're like, you're not, we can say those things behind closed doors and that's okay, but we can't let the public or other people know what we're thinking, or like what, we need to carry on the facade. And I get it. I do. And that is one of the reasons why I moved away from medical stuff, to be honest, because, like filming in hospital was very hard / almost impossible. There's always somebody there. There might be somebody in the background. There might be somebody having a conversation. You just don't even notice it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and the interesting thing about hospital is the patients, right? The patients and the cases. And obviously I'm not going to be like, oh my God, Mr. Jones, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something semi-interesting but not too rude. It's quite difficult. I looked at his rash and it was a bit stinky. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if I said that on camera and that actually met up to real life, then, and I was on that ward and, you knew which ward it was and which hospital, and it's just like, it's difficult. So I moved away from being a doctor in the social sphere as such, as a content creator, performer type thing. But also a lot of my stuff is jokes, and as in a lot of the stuff I say is a joke, and I'm becoming a lot better at, this might help actually. As in, I can now be like, but I don't want to be like, oh, I made a joke, because it kind of takes away the point, right? I'm very sarcastic, and some people don't get that, and some people take it as like, oh my gosh, she's being like truthful. She's saying what she actually thinks or whatever. And I'm like, no, not all the time. Wowzers, I cannot remember what I was saying. I think some of that is also why I just moved away from medicine in general, like just negative, bitchy, toxic atmosphere. I know not all hospitals are like it, not all departments are like it, not all doctors are like it. I get it. but it doesn't take a lot for it to become intolerable and for it to spread like norovirus across the hospital, because especially when the senior team, not talking about any department in particular, but let's say the senior team are arguing, or like, consultants are having a kerfuffle. What a British word. Having a kerfuffle, and the juniors catch wind of it and they go, and then they start talking about it, and then it filters down. It does. So consultants really need to set an example, in my opinion. Yes, do juniors need to set an example? Yeah, of course, to the juniors below them, and to other people. But it definitely also starts from the top. And it's also like, what kind of behaviour do we accept in this department? So anyway, somebody said to me the other day, doctors are bitchy, and I was like, oh, I've never thought about it like that, like in a weird way. And then I was like, oh, am I bitchy? Is that why? Or maybe I've just been indoctrinated into the sphere, that kind of toxic bitchy culture. I don't know. I also think, I don't know, that's what I mean. I don't know if I'd say it's bitchy or just negative or just like dark humour. I wonder if things have gotten bitchier over the last few years, maybe, few months. I mean, I haven't been in hospital for a few months now. So maybe it's gotten even worse. But, people are struggling. It's understaffed, and that makes it literally even worse. So obviously the bitchier, nastier side of people is going to come out. So there we go. And people do just love to bitch. It's like when I say bitch, I mean like talk nastily about people behind each other's backs. I am not a bitchy person. Like, do I like to gossip? Yes. But I will also talk to that person about whatever in front of them. So I would rarely, if ever, say anything that behind somebody's back that I wouldn't say to them in person. So I wouldn't say I'm a bitchy person. People might disagree. Okay, that's fine. You go for it. What are we moving on to next? Okay. I've written literally word for word, and this might not be PC, but some people are shitters and don't look after themselves. I don't even know what that means. It's a joke, okay? It's a joke. But people don't look after themselves. And I don't necessarily think that's completely individual society problems. I don't know why I said individual and society, because they are very different things. Individuals in society, I don't think it's necessarily their problem. I think the government should regulate things a bit more. For example, smoking's definitely changed, which is great. But I think one thing that is definitely lagging behind is sugar. Yes, there's a bit of a sugar tax, but who pays that? The consumer, not the company, weirdly, because they just increase the prices and go, oh, well, the customer can pay that price. So the thing is, I think it's like 20% of people in hospital have diabetes, and most of it is type 2. Now, I don't know that as a fact, but that's from anecdotal evidence. So the population as a whole, it does not have 20% of people having diabetes. So that means that people who have diabetes are more likely to go into hospital. And that is just a true fact. And people don't realise it, that diabetes is a horrible disease. And it's difficult because people might not necessarily, it's only really coming to light recently that people don't necessarily have the knowledge or education, and that's not their fault, that's just because it's recent, that diabetes is actually like a really bad thing. It literally like rots you, damages all of your organs, like all of them. Kidneys in particular, brain, like you can get, it just causes microvascular damage, which is like small vessel damage, which means that all literally everywhere in your body is affected. So do not see getting diabetes as a benign disease at all. Please think about sugar. We need to start educating people about it. It is one of my biggest, I wouldn't say it's a pet peeve because it's actually very important. So it's actually just one of my biggest peeves is that people are like, there's like memes like diabetes. Like, yeah, it's funny, but it's also a really significant disease. And yes, people have type 1 diabetes. I'm not including them in this little pitch here, but there I think there's a significant divide in hospitals if you look at the demographic. Okay, so there's obviously kids in hospital now. That's genetic or infection, usually like genetic diseases, infection related disorders, and then trauma. Those are the three like common ones. And or mental health, actually, I forgot that one. And then moving into adults, the most common reason people are in hospital are either that they're really old and they're getting age-related diseases or processes, heart failure, heart attacks, strokes, falling over, breaking their bones, or it's as either bad luck, young person who gets cancer, arguably maybe that's genetic, but also it's because they haven't looked after themselves. Do they smoke? A lot of them do. Do they have diabetes? Are they morbidly obese? Do they drink a lot? Do they do drugs? There's a significant proportion of people in hospital in the adult sector, let's just talk about adults, who are in the don't look after themselves category, and that is why they're in hospital. Do I think that's necessarily their fault? No. Like, I am not blaming it on them. I think it's an education problem. It's a government social care problem. And there are a lot of countries who do it much better than us with a very similar population demographic. So it's not as though it can't be done. It's just that it needs to be managed in a different way. So I do not blame that on people. I never think that unless people actively want to put on weight or go out and do drugs, I never think that drug and alcohol addictions and food addictions essentially are the person's fault. I'm very much like against that. I don't think somebody wakes up and goes, I want to be an alcoholic. Like, it happens. And I don't see that as their fault. And me being like an overweight person as well, and I've always struggled with my weight, just being overweight. And that's because I guess of, in some ways, like a sugar addiction. And also some of it is, I would say, genetics, and some of it is environment. You're surrounded. And I walked into what's it called? Petrol station the other day, or a gas station if you're listening in America. And the whole aisle leading up, literally, I'm going to make like a short on it because I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. Honestly, it was the most tragic thing I've ever seen in my life so far. Not quite, but it was very tragic to see. I walked into the petrol station and flanked either side. I was surrounded by colourful packets. I mean, you know what it looks like. I don't even need to tell you. There was nothing else in this petrol station. It was quite a small one. It had like 2 aisles. One was full of like fizzy drinks and takeaway food and coffee. And the other aisle, which I was in, because it led up to the front desk thing, the cashier, was absolutely full of chocolate and sweets. Like, I was just surrounded by it. And I know it happens, but this one in particular was so bad that I was like, there is no fresh food in sight in this whole place, like none. And it was like walking through a TikTok for you page. Like, I've never been through that. Like, I have once, but that's kind of what I imagine it to be like. You know, when they have those satisfying videos where everything's really colourful and you're like, oh my God, colourful things. I want to pick everything. It was like that, but with chocolate and sweets. And it was so sad because it's so easy just to go, oh yeah, well, I'm here. And you don't really get any judgment as such, because you can kind of like do it and nobody can see. It's not as though you've gone down that aisle specifically and gone, yes, I am actively choosing to walk out of my way to go and get a chocolate bar and put it in my basket. No, it's like it's an impulse buy, and that is why they do it. Simple as that. What one do I want to use? Meh. It's sad. So that's people are shitters and don't look after themselves. Okay, I might leave one of them out. One of them is the trigger one that I was talking about. And to be honest, it's kind of obvious. Skip on now a couple of minutes if I were you. If you're, the death thing bothers you, health anxiety or whatever. So young people die. I have seen children, not actively seen them die, but I've known children who have died, cancer or other non-related even illnesses. Have I seen anybody my age die? Yeah, I've seen somebody 35 die. I've seen kids die. Not seen. I keep saying seen. Known of. I've never seen a kid die. I've known of, a lot of the time when people are young, they don't die in hospital. They tend to die in a hospice or at home. So it's rare that you actually see it, but you know that that's what's going to happen. Because they're either made, end of life, or that discussion is had in hospital. So, yeah, I just think, it's made me appreciate life more for what it is rather than being like, I'm going to live forever. I really do think about my actions and their consequences, but, maybe I could just do a whole nother episode on this, but it's a bit of a morbid one, isn't it? Young healthy people die. Fortunately, I've seen, I don't know if I need to get into it really, but I've seen 30-year-olds who are very fit and active. It must be a genetic thing, or I don't know whether they've been exposed to some kind of environmental thing. It's never really known. I'm sure as we find out more things about genetics over the years, we're really going to find these things out. But for now, it's, quite novel. So yeah, I have seen 30-year-olds die of when 30-year-olds get cancer, it's usually quite hefty, like it's quite aggressive. 30 or 40-year-olds, and they've often got young kids, and that's quite sad. And yeah, so there we go. Let's move on from that. Okay. Let me get this straight, okay, doctors? I recently had let's just get it out there. I recently had a breast lump scare, okay? All is fine. I've had it investigated. But what I realised is that I did not give a shit about getting my boobies out. I was like, here you go. Here you go. I just didn't really care. And I was like, yeah, you might be my future colleagues, but I see it from the other side, right? As me, if I see a colleague or a patient, I don't remember. I'm not like, oh yeah, that's what your boobies look like, or breasts, I should say. I generally either forget or just don't really care. Like, I'm focused on what I'm doing. I'm not focused on the nuances of your nipple structure or whether your bum crack is hairy. Like, I just don't care. Yeah. Also, trust me, I've definitely seen worse, and I've definitely seen less hygienic. So I also wouldn't worry about that. The people that you do remember are the people, conversely, who are, they kind of make more of a big deal about it. And I have had, I've had some very nervous patients in the past. I was going to go into more detail, but I won't. And have made the examination physically somewhat difficult. And those, or like maybe even awkward, just by like some of the things they've been like saying or whatever. And those are the ones you tend to remember, I find, because you're like, oh, it's the way it makes you feel, if you're, usually you're just like concentrating on what you're doing. But it's when people, those are the only ones that I remember very vaguely, though. I wouldn't be like walking down the street and be like, yeah, I remember, I saw that. No, when you've seen enough, they all blur into one, and that is why we write things down. That's why we document things, because trust me, we would forget. I don't remember things from a long time ago. Okay. I've got 2 more points, right? One of them is that people. Okay, this amazes me. I know it's very simple. This might be my weird thought. For those of you who are new to the podcast, by the way, a weird thought is where it's like Rihanna, like weird thought. When I'm with you, all I get is weird thoughts. That's my little thing. By the end, by the way, by like the 1000th episode, that will be really good. So, Rihanna, watch out. So number 1, old people are so fucking old. I cannot wrap my head around how old they are. I'm like, by the way, when you think about old people, you're like, oh, they're wrinkly and like saggy. Yes, it's true. I'm going to concur. There have only been like maybe 2 or 3 90 to 100-year-olds that have not been saggy. And I've been like, what? What have you been doing? And sometimes you see them and you're like, you've either got very good genetics or you're very well hydrated or something's going on. I don't know, maybe you've got a good plastic surgeon. I do not understand some of it. But no, a lot of smoking is a big thing. Makes you very wrinkly. You can tell when somebody smokes. And so, yeah, stop. You will be a wrinkly, saggy bag if you keep smoking. Stop it. So I think the reason why I say like people are so old is because I see them as like, I see them when they're really frail and all they do is lie in bed, and their existence revolves around another person. So they're like, they can't live, some of them, without another person helping them live. And I just find that really crazy. I mean, yeah, I know babies are like that, but I think it's only a really recent thing, as in within the last maybe half a century, which I think is quite recent. I'm not saying like the last week, that people are starting to live significantly longer to the point of needing to be in care homes and needing like 24-hour care. And I'm like, wow, I just find that crazy. I don't know why, I just do. And I often think about like their life. I'm like, you're 100 years old. You've lived 100 years. You were alive in World War One, World War Two, and now you're alive now. And I just find that crazy. Like I really do. Not crazy in a bad way, crazy in like a baffled way. Like, wow, how did this happen? My last thing is something that's been concerning me for a while and has been concerning humankind for a while. It's not just me, there are lots of people that are concerned about it. In fact, I think there's a whole movie made on it. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, it might come to me, but I'm slightly worried about society, and I'll tell you why. I'm worried about what's going to happen when drug addicts, and this is not an uncommon story, okay? I'm not just exaggerating. When drug addicts who can't look after their children and are taken away from birth have 8 children, and then lots of people with stable jobs, stable lives, non-illegal addictions. We all probably have addictions, don't we? But non-illegal ones don't have any kids or just have one. What happens? What is the outcome for that? And that is something that spooks me a little bit. I'm like, are we gonna like, I don't know. I don't want to say anything too rude is the issue. So I'm kind of like holding some of my words, I would say. Ooh. I need to go and watch that film. What's it called? Right, let me find out because I really want to know now. Ah, okay. It's called Idiocracy, I believe. So it was made in 2006, and it's basically, let me get it up. I haven't watched it, and I kind of want to. But it says Corporal Joe, a decisively average American, is selected as a guinea pig for a top secret hibernation program, but is forgotten. He awakens to a future so incredibly moronic, he's easily the most intelligent person alive. And I think he wakes up 500 years later. Is this the film I mean? Anyway, it's basically about evolution of whether we'll all just become more stupid from here on out because we've gotten rid of natural selection, and there literally is almost no natural selection in play now. It's basically that, yeah, you could walk into the road, but there's always a sign telling you not to, and then some kind of barrier, and I don't know, everyone drives at like 5 miles an hour. So do you know what I mean? It's like, it's very much removed. Any kind of natural selection process. So that is a future that we might need to prepare for. And I've definitely seen it over, and I don't know if this, maybe this is just, again, anecdotal. I know nothing about this. I know nothing about public health information, but arguably personality disorders come from a unstable and neglectful upbringing. And I feel like I've seen an increase, anecdotally, of personality disorders, also known as borderline personality disorder, but now changed to emotionally unstable personality disorder, over the last 10 years of me working as a doctor. And especially in pediatrics, and some of that could be attributed to COVID, but some of that could also be attributed to poor social care and poor education, meaning that everyone's sort of, some people are just left in the lurch. Some people are having kids when maybe that's not the wisest decision, and there's lots of things at play. Society is a very complicated game, but anyway, that's my 2 cents about that one. It is a concern of mine. It really is. I'm like, what's going to happen? I am a bit, and also I think a lot of people are like, what's going to happen when everyone's just addicted to social media, and then, you know, all of those things come together because they're all new. We've never seen social media be a thing constantly in our lives. So is this just going to come back around, and then we're all going to be like, God, why did I ever watch TikTok? Like, I really do think TikTok's going to die at some point. I'm hoping it'll just be a phase. You know, everyone's going to go, wow, this is really quite toxic for me. Unless it becomes like a search engine, which I believe it is, but, you know, in a way that it's, in a way I feel like it's just made for satisfying, entertaining media, instant gratification media. Anyway, I need to get on to the next one. Thanks so much for listening, guys. If you liked it, if you've got any comments, please write it down below in the comments on YouTube. If you're just listening, then please follow, or maybe head over to YouTube and I don't know, give me a little comment about, especially that last one. I'm still like, it's really a prediction. I'm like, what is going to happen to the world? Maybe just comment like a little world and a footprint emoji, and then be like, this is what I think about that point. And then everyone will be like, what does this mean? And then I'll be like, well, you have to go find out. Okay, the camera literally just died, but I am basically right at the end. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next episode. I upload every Monday and Thursday. And yeah, if you like it, then please share it with your friends, family. And you can send me an email, contact@diariesofadoctor.com, write a comment, and give it a rating on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Okay, thanks. Bye.